I honestly don't know how it's possible, but the Atlanta Falcons legitimately have a chance to still win this division, which is a crazy statement considering we have been so disappointed this entire football season with the product that we've seen on the field. And yet, based off of the NFC South standings right now, we are only 2 games behind first place. Welcome in, Falcons fans, to Falcons Today by Chat Sports. My name is Moose. And like I said, if you take a look at the standings right here, besides the New Orleans Saints, who are just ass crack, there's a 3-way kind of battle right now for the top of the division. And I don't want to hear a damn thing about the Carolina Panthers. Not one thing. I will start by saying this, though. The team has a long way to go, the Falcons, that is, before even considering the playoffs. You have to string together multiple wins moving forward for me to even say, okay, what would that look like? But mathematically speaking, numbers-wise, this team can still absolutely make the playoffs, which is, again, nuts to think about. So on today's show, can the Atlanta Falcons make the playoffs based off of the recent games that we've seen from the other NFC South teams? Is Bill Belichick interested in coming to the Atlanta Falcons next year based off of an interesting report that we got from Josina Anderson? And if you really want to see the Atlanta Falcons make the playoffs, of course I do, hit that thumbs up icon for me right now. All right, let's start with the Falcons' playoff chances. So I think it's important to note everything else going on in the NFC South right now before we even talk about the Atlanta Falcons making the playoffs. Baker Mayfield was just diagnosed with a sprained left shoulder, so it's his non-throwing shoulder. Well, here's the interesting thing. He dealt with the exact same injury when he was in Cleveland, and that caused his entire performance in Cleveland to spiral downward, so much so that they got rid of him. He went over to Carolina. So there's a lot of different things that are happening right now with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and their injury history. But Baker Mayfield playing through pain. There's a chance he plays against the Arizona Cardinals, but I do not even think he's remotely close to 100%. And the Buccaneers themselves are decimated with injuries. So who knows? They've lost a string of games. And I think we saw that the Arizona Cardinals on any given Sunday can absolutely put belt to ass to any team in the NFL. So the Buccaneers, they're not in the greatest spot right now. I also know that Jacoby Brissett has kind of breathed new life into that team. They suck too. But I'm not sold on the Buccaneers right now. Now, if the Buccaneers start to rattle off some wins, if they start to get up to 7, 8 wins in the next couple of weeks, okay, you can pretty much kiss your entire playoff chances goodbye. We still do play the Buccaneers one more time. That's going to be a very, very interesting game to see. However, we're kind of all hoping that the Arizona Cardinals beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this coming Sunday. All right, let's move on to the other team that's right above us right now, and that's the Carolina Panthers. The bipolar Panthers is what I'm going to call them because, good Lord, man. I don't know how they beat the absolute shit out of the Atlanta Falcons. I just don't get it. Last night's performance, Brock Purdy throws 3 picks and the Panthers score 9 points. I don't want to hear a damn thing about how Bryce Young is unbelievable. That guy sucks, except against the Falcons. And I'm going to talk about that here in just a little bit, but more on Bryce Young. He's not 5'10", by the way, and he's not 204. He's about 5'9", $190. For reference, I'm 5'9", $188. So Bryce Young is my size. I'm basically playing quarterback for the Carolina Panthers. He's not the answer. And for the sake of the Falcons, I kind of hope he is the answer, except when he plays us, because there's something going around that I like to call the Mitch Trubisky effect. And what is the Mitch Trubisky effect, you might say? Well, when Mitch Trubisky was drafted by the Chicago Bears, he was a spectacularly mid quarterback. In fact, against every team in the NFL, the other 30 teams in the NFL, Mitch Trubisky was except when he played the Lions. And then he turned into Joe Montana. And that's exactly what Bryce Young has been this entire season against the Atlanta Falcons. I just don't understand it. He's got the Falcons' number for sure. But look at these numbers. These are not good numbers. 2,100 yards passing, 15 touchdowns, 9 picks with a passer rating of 83.8. You'd be fooling yourself to say that Bryce Young is the guy. And because he had 2 good games, in fact, it was actually only really 1 good game against the Atlanta Falcons this year. The other one, the Falcons just shit the bed. But Bryce Young he's an enigma to me because he could play like absolute crap the entire season, and then he plays us and we give up 450 yards to him. And by the way, they play the Rams this week, so good luck. That's the best team right now in the NFL. I see the Panthers going 6-7. And if the Falcons beat the Jets, they are 1 game behind the Carolina Panthers for second place in the division. And then if the Cardinals beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they're 1 game back from first. Mathematically speaking, Falcons could be sitting in the driver's seat pretty soon. So again, it's crazy. I don't know that it will happen. I'm not entirely sure at this point with the development of the team. I'm very, very cautious. But I can't ignore facts. I can't ignore numbers. Now, coming up, I'm going to talk to you about a rumor that's going around, which I believe is actually more based in fact than anything. It's about Bill Belichick. But before I do that, got to tell you about my friends over at Prize Picks. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. The holiday season is here, the best time of the year for sports. Bowl games, basketball matchups, playoff pushes. It's all happening all at once. And while you and I are out here making decisions every single day, what gifts to buy, what to eat, which game to watch, there is one place where it's always good to be right. And that's Prize Picks. Get a new feature alert. Prize Picks now has early payouts. So even if your lineup gets off to a hot start, you may now have the option to cash out those winnings before the game even finishes. And they've got this really cool new stacks feature that I actually used in my most recent lineup. Bijan Robinson, take a look at it. I stacked him up on the receiving yards and the rushing yards. I took Kirk Cousins, more on the passing yards, and then Tyrod Taylor, who we go up against this Sunday. I'm taking the less on that guy as well. Yours can look like mine. Doesn't have to. Just download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It is good to be right. Is Bill Belichick still interested in coaching the Falcons? I think if you would have asked somebody last year, they would have said, yes, he was still very interested. And then Arthur Blank went out and said, Raheem Morris is our guy. But this came out today. Josina Anderson dropped this massive bombshell report. Here's what she said. I'm told at least 2 NFL teams, at least 2, are still expected to have interest in talking to Bill Belichick behind the scenes, at the very least about head coaching jobs this carousel season, per a league source. A 3rd team could also enter the mix who desires to talk, particularly if one specific personnel change is made under ownership. Interesting. Side note, by the way, she says, there's more to the story of why Bill Belichick did not end up the head coach under another NFL team a couple of seasons ago, with his own desires and preferences regarding workplace dynamics playing more into a part of it than I think was originally discussed, publicly known, or given real credence. At any rate, Bill Belichick still has a deep respect from a number of owners across the league, and that is what matters. So I'm sure you're wondering, that's a huge, huge quote. What do you take away from this? There are 3 teams that I believe are actually interested in hiring Bill Belichick. Just 3. The Tennessee Titans, the Atlanta Falcons, and the New York Giants. I think the Atlanta Falcons were a lot closer to hiring Bill Belichick than originally reported. It might have been that the Falcons settled on Raheem Morris. Either way, I think Blank and Terry know that they made a mistake with Raheem. This is just my take. It feels like Bill's agent wants it known that he wants back into the NFL. And I think, honestly, he'll look at the Tennessee Titans and say, that roster sucks. He'll look at the New York Giants and say, don't like the ownership. Joe Shane is too heavily involved. So where is the perfect spot to coach a talented roster with not nearly as bad of a GM? Because believe it or not, I think Terry is a better GM than Joe Shane. It's the Atlanta Falcons. And right now, it doesn't look good at North Carolina. But I think it's not a good fit for Bill in college. He's never, ever been the type to be known as a college. Oh, excuse me. Wow. There's lunch coming back up. He's never been known as a type to coach in college. He's 4-7 right now. We all know that he doesn't like it there. We all know that the boosters and the athletic director at North Carolina don't like him either. It's just not a good fit, and that's okay. Plus, he's got that whole girlfriend situation, and I don't think she'd be a distraction in the NFL. Think about it. What's the one reason that she can have this massive voice at North Carolina? Well, Bill's coaching a bunch of college kids. She's like 27. She's older than all of them. She will not have any voice among professional football players. It'll be stupid. And I did hear from a couple of the guys at Chat Sports, and they're like, she's not really a distraction to the team. She's more of a distraction to Bill. But I also know that Bill, when he gets into the NFL setting, it just feels a lot more like just do your job. There's a lot of different avenues and different things and variables that go into being a college coach, like recruiting, boosters, the AD. I mean, you name it. There's just parents, for example. The NFL, it's just ball. It's always just ball. So that's one reason to sign Bill Belichick. However, I'm not sold on Bill right now. I'm not saying I don't want him, but I'm also saying that I think you really need to do an extensive sit-down interview with him again and see what it will look like and ask him the hard questions. Why did it fail at North Carolina? And whatever he answers, maybe you make your decision from there. But I'll ask you, do you want Bill Belichick as the next head coach of the Atlanta Falcons? Yes or no? This is going to be the pinned comment of today's episode, so make sure you get down there and answer it as many times as you can. That's going to do it for us on today's episode. A reminder to hit that subscribe button. Rise up, Dirty Birds fans, and as always, be cool.